Hello, brave souls who have stepped into the darkness with us. Before tonight's chilling stories begin, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like now. Just one click will help us reach 1,000 subscribers soon, so that this darkness can spread and bring even more realistic nightmares. Thank you for your support. Now, turn off the lights and let us pull you into the nightmare. Are you ready? I've had a mild case of Tourette's since I was a kid, which manifests as my eyes twitching uncontrollably or my shoulders shrugging involuntarily whenever I'm under pressure. Because of this, I chose a job delivering food at night in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. The darkness and the silence of the empty roads made me feel less scrutinized. I was saving every penny to help my parents pay off the student loans that were weighing them down. Most late-night orders come from students, pulling all-nighters, or late-shift workers. They usually just take the food, nod thanks, and close the door. That was the case until a Friday night in late October, when a thick fog began to roll down from the pine forests. The order popped up at 11:45 p.m. 2 medium-rare steaks and a large bottle of red wine to be delivered to 1290 Old Woods Road. It was an area where the GPS signal began to flicker and die. The driveway leading to the house was covered in fallen leaves and thick mud. When I pulled up, the house loomed like a giant ghost in the middle of the woods. It was an old wooden mansion, unfenced, with a long porch supported by rotting wooden pillars. I grabbed the bags and stepped up. A man opened the door before I even had a chance to knock. He looked to be in his 50s, so thin that the black suit he wore looked like it was hanging on a wooden coat rack. His face was long and pale, with a pair of icy blue eyes that never seemed to blink. "Hello there. You've arrived just in time. Our most important dinner of the year," he said, his voice strangely deep and echoing. I felt my shoulders start to shrug violently, a clear sign of my anxiety. That will be $85, sir." "Oh, come inside. I don't have my wallet here." My wife is waiting in the dining room. She's very eager to meet the person who brought our dinner. He smiled, but the smile stayed only on his lips. His eyes remained as cold as a frozen lake. Normally, I'm not supposed to enter a customer's home, but looking at the rain starting to pour outside and his polite demeanor, I stepped across the threshold. Immediately, a strange scent hit my nose. It wasn't the smell of trash, but the scent of rotting lilies, mixed with a heavy, suffocating odor of candle wax. The house was dark, lit only by scattered candles. He led me down a long hallway lined with old portraits. As we passed a large wooden door secured with 3 heavy padlocks, I heard a sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound of fingernails clawing against wood, slow and steady. I froze, my shoulder twitching. What is in there? The man didn't turn back. He only tilted his head slightly. "That's my wife's cat. He's a bit naughty, so we have to lock him up so he doesn't ruin the dinner." We entered the dining room. A woman sat at the head of a long table, wearing a white wedding dress that had yellowed with age. She sat motionless, her head bowed low, a veil completely covering her face. The table was set with candles, dried flowers, and polished silver cutlery. "Darling, dinner is here." "This young man was very kind," the man said as he approached her. She didn't answer, nor did she move. I felt the air grow thick. Cold sweat poured down my back. "Sir, I really have to go now." "Wait, you haven't received your payment." He pulled a $100 bill from his pocket. "You know, you have a face very similar to our son's. He left us 10 years ago on this very night." He stepped toward me, reaching out a hand as if to touch my face. I backed away, my eyes twitching incessantly. "I'm sorry, I don't look like anyone." At that moment, the scratching from the previous room turned into a muffled whimper. Then came the sound of something breaking. The man's expression shifted instantly. His icy blue eyes rolled wildly with a manic fury. "He wants out again. He never learns to be good," he roared, turning toward the woman at the head of the table. He grabbed her shoulders and shook her violently. The veil fell away. I nearly fainted. It wasn't a woman. It was a life-sized wax doll, with lifeless glass eyes and real human hair crudely glued to its scalp. Patches of wax on its face were melting from the heat of the surrounding candles, forming hideous scars. "You're insane!" I screamed, dropping the food bags and running for my life down the hallway. As I passed the locked door, the scratching became more frantic than ever. A thin, thread-like voice wheezed from behind the door. "Help! Help me!" "Don't let him wax me." I saw a gaunt, purpled human finger poking out from the gap under the door, desperate to claw at the floor. The man chased after me, brandishing a long steak knife. "You can't leave. The party has just begun." I burst through the front door, leaped off the porch, and sprinted to my car. I cranked the engine and floored the gas, the car sliding through the mud. In the rearview mirror, I saw the man standing on the porch under the pouring rain. He wasn't chasing me anymore. He was simply standing there, stroking the face of the wax doll he had just carried out. I drove straight to the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I recounted everything in a state of total panic, my shoulders and eyes twitching so badly they had to give me a sedative. The next morning, police raided the house at 1290 Old Woods Road. What they found shocked the entire state of Oregon. The man was Thomas Wick, a former candlemaker who had long since vanished from the community. In the room behind the triple-locked door, police found his son, the one he claimed had left 10 years ago. He was still alive, but his legs had been amputated, and his entire body was covered in a thin layer of wax to keep him young and ensure he never left the family. Even more horrific, in the kitchen, they found the body of the real wife. She had been dead for years and preserved with chemicals so Thomas could take her hair and skin to graft onto the wax doll I had seen. Thomas Wick was committed to a high-security psychiatric hospital. I quit the delivery job immediately. The police confiscated the $100 bill as evidence. But the most terrifying part wasn't the fact that I almost lost my life. A week after the arrest, I was lying in my bedroom when I heard a familiar sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from beneath my bed. And then, the suffocating scent of rotting lilies and candle wax began to fill the room. I lay frozen, my eyes twitching in the dark, not daring to look at the floor. I realized then that although Thomas was locked away, the dinner he had prepared was far from over, and I was the main course he had been waiting for all along. My name is Jake. I was 16, living in a small coastal town in Massachusetts near Cape Cod. Our town was famous with tourists in the summer for its beautiful beaches and the vast sand dunes that stretched for miles. But in the fall, when the tourists left, the place became strangely quiet. The national seashore dunes were a favorite spot for locals. During the day, you'd see families having picnics, people jogging with their dogs, or photographers chasing sunsets. But at night, especially after summer ended, the area was almost completely deserted. The dunes ran on for miles, and it was easy to get lost if you weren't familiar with them. Still, as long as you kept moving in one direction, you could usually find your way back to the parking lot or out to the beach. This happened late September last year, about 2 weeks after the school year started. I was part of our local Boy Scout troop, Troop 47. We were split into age groups: Cubs, 8 to 10, Scouts, 11 to 13, and Senior Scouts, 14 to 17. Every Friday, we met from 7 to 9 p.m. to practice survival skills, go kayaking, or just do outdoor activities. That night was the first meeting of the fall season. By tradition, the senior scouts led the newer scouts into the dunes for a small rite, climbing the tallest dune, Pilgrim's Peak, and planting the troop flag at the top. It was how we marked new members as officially part of the troop. We gathered in the parking lot near the dune entrance at 7 p.m. It was already getting dark, the sunset leaving a pale orange stripe on the horizon. Scoutmaster Williams, a 50-year-old man, strict but kind, counted heads. There were about 20 younger scouts and 8 senior scouts, including me. "Senior scouts will lead," Mr. Williams announced. "Younger scouts, stay close. No one wanders off. Bring flashlights and keep in contact with whistles. Understood?" "Yes, sir," we answered in unison. The scouts headed out first. The other senior scouts and I stayed back for about 30 minutes to practice first aid with the assistant scoutmaster, Derek, a 22-year-old college student. When we finished, we decided to catch up with the group. "Hurry up," Derek said. "I'll stay here and watch the gear." 4 of us, me, my best friend Liam, and 2 others named Tyler and Ethan, decided to run ahead so we could reach the peak before the younger scouts. "We'll get there first and surprise them," Liam joked. We charged into the dunes, flashlights cutting through the dark. The white sand reflected the moonlight, throwing weird black shadows. The ocean wind blew hard, carrying the distant crash of waves. We ran up and down the dunes, sometimes slipping on the soft sand and laughing too loudly. After about 15 minutes, we stopped on a high ridge to catch our breath and drink water. From there, we could see the flashlights of the other senior scouts behind us, a few hundred meters away. We waved our beams. They waved back. "How much farther?" Tyler asked, panting. "Maybe 10 minutes," I said, looking toward Pilgrim's Peak, an even taller dune rising in the darkness. Suddenly, Ethan lifted a hand for silence. "Do you hear that?" We all froze, listening. The wind calmed, and in that brief quiet, I heard something strange. Steady footsteps on sand, coming from somewhere below us. "Probably the scouts," Liam said, but his voice wasn't confident. "No," Ethan whispered, shaking his head. "It sounds like one person, and they're not using a flashlight." We shined our lights down into the hollow below, a small valley between dunes where teens sometimes snuck off to drink or smoke. We saw nothing, only darkness. "It's just the wind," Tyler said, trying to sound calm, but I saw him tighten his grip on his flashlight. We kept going. 10 minutes later, we reached Pilgrim's Peak and found the younger scouts and 2 other senior scouts already there. They were planting the flag and joking around. "You guys are slow," one of the younger scouts teased. We joined the short ceremony, then decided we had to head back. By then, it was almost completely dark, and most of the younger kids only had small flashlights. We didn't want anyone getting lost. The whole troop started down. Liam, Tyler, Ethan, and I went in front to light the path. We followed the same route back, up and down dunes, until we saw the flashlights of the remaining 2 senior scouts, Marcus and Sophie, standing on the ridge where we'd stopped earlier. When the 4 of us reached them, I instantly knew something was wrong. Marcus, a big guy, about 6 feet 1 inch, captain of the school wrestling team, looked shaken. Sophie was trembling, even though it wasn't cold. "What happened?" Liam asked. Marcus stared straight at me and spoke seriously. "Did any of you go down into that valley alone?" He pointed toward the hollow below. "No, we stayed together the whole time," I said, feeling a chill crawl up my spine. "Why?" Sophie spoke, her voice unsteady. "We saw someone, a man, walking down there, wearing a black coat, hood up, no flashlight. He was moving really slowly, like he was searching for something." At first we thought it was one of you, Marcus added. But when we watched more closely, we knew it wasn't. He was bigger than Jake, and the way he moved was weird, like he was deliberately avoiding our light. My heart hammered. Where is he now? Marcus and Sophie hesitated. Then Marcus said, "That's the scary part. When you left this ridge and ran up to Pilgrim's Peak, we saw him climb up to the exact spot you'd been standing. He just stood there, watching you. And then he vanished." "Vanished?" Ethan repeated, his voice rising. "Yes," Sophie nodded. "One second he was there, the next he wasn't. He didn't go down, didn't go sideways, he just disappeared into the darkness." Then it clicked. The footsteps Ethan had heard earlier. It had been him. He'd been following us. Maybe from the moment we left the parking lot. He knew exactly where we were. And now he was somewhere in the dunes, moving without a flashlight. "We need to go back now," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "The whole troop stays together." Marcus and Sophie ran to warn Scoutmaster Williams and the others. Meanwhile, the four of us stood guard, sweeping our flashlights back and forth over the valley. We saw nothing, just wind and the distant surf. But I could feel someone watching us. The feeling was sharp and undeniable, like cold fingers sliding along my spine. We didn't speak. We stayed close, lights scanning the darkness. Marcus and Sophie returned quickly with Scoutmaster Williams and the troop. "We're leaving," Mr. Williams ordered. "Stay tight. Nobody separates." We moved as one toward the parking lot. The senior scouts walked on the outside, forming a protective ring, with the younger kids in the middle. No one spoke. All you could hear were footsteps in sand and heavy breathing. We were almost out of the dunes, able to see the parking lot lights about 200 meters away, when a younger scout named Tommy suddenly screamed. The sound cut through the night and made everyone jump. "There's someone! Someone's over there!" Tommy pointed left, shaking. Liam and I rushed to him first. "Where? Where?" Liam demanded. Tommy couldn't speak. He just pointed. We swung our flashlights in that direction, and we saw him. A tall figure stood on a dune ridge about 30 meters away. He wore a long black coat, hood pulled low over his face. He didn't move, just stood there, watching. Our beams hit him, but we couldn't see his face, only darkness beneath the hood. "Hey!" Scoutmaster Williams shouted. "Who are you? What do you want?" No answer. The figure stayed still. Then I saw it. Something long in his hand, catching the flashlight with a cold gleam. A large knife. "Run!" Liam yelled. "He's got a knife!" "Run to the parking lot!" Everyone scattered. The senior scouts grabbed the smaller kids who couldn't run fast enough. I grabbed Tommy's hand and pulled him with me. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, heart pounding like it would explode. We burst out of the dunes into the parking lot, where Derek and a few parents were waiting. "What happened?" Derek asked, staring at our terrified faces. "There's a man in the dunes with a knife," Marcus gasped. Derek immediately called 911. The police arrived within 15 minutes. They entered the dunes with powerful floodlights and a canine unit, but they found no one. No footprints they could confirm, no evidence, nothing but our story. The police told us there had been a few reports over the past weeks about a suspicious man wandering the dunes late at night. They thought he might be homeless or mentally unstable, but the fact that he had a knife and seemed to be watching us on purpose made them deeply concerned. Troop 47 never went back to the dunes at night again. Even now, I still have nightmares about that figure, standing on the ridge, perfectly still, staring at us from the darkness. And the lesson I learned that night was simple. Never ignore your instincts when they warn you something is wrong. And never go into dark, isolated places without a clear escape plan.